Hello guys, so this is my first video for my blog Documentation Planet, and I would like to make it about debugging, and it's going to be about XDebug, SSHFS, using Eclipse, debugging remote sites live, and it's a bunch of really geeky stuff. And by the way, you can check out how I do my screencasting. I'm not really very satisfied. It's hogging a lot of my CPU. Check it out. So if anybody knows of a better way or has some better software, I would like to hear about that. You can make a comment on my blog. I will give the link in the end. So it's almost 100%, and I've just made FPS 3. That's 3 frames per second. So yeah, I could use some help on that. Okay, let's get on to doing this stuff actually. So what I have in my setup is a dedicated machine in Frankfurt. This is the machine we're looking at right now, the terminal to that machine, and my home desktop PC. So what I'm doing, I'm debugging websites live remotely on this dedicated machine in Frankfurt using XDebug, SSHFS, Eclipse, etc. So I want to reveal how I do that. So let's go into my machine, the dedicated machine in Frankfurt, and check out the XDebug configuration. Okay, these are the magical lines, and the crucial thing is to point the XDebug towards your desktop machine so that it can connect once you start the debugging session. And this is the dynamic DNS configuration that points this domain name to my machine. The port is 9000, and obviously you have to forward this on your router in order for it to pass through the router towards your desktop machine. A couple of more interesting things is the auto trace. This enables me to dump a trace of the execution path that has occurred in the script. I use sometimes that if I don't know where the script died or something like that. It can be very useful if for example, you have some variable that gets some weird value and you can't figure out where that happens. You can enable this you can configure this auto trace to dump variables as well, so you can find the exact place where this variable took this value. The next thing that is very useful for me is this profiler thing, and this enables me to trigger profiling with a get parameter in the URL. And when I do that, it generates a profiling report in this folder, and I load that into a K-cache grind program. That's K-cache grind. It analyzes this profiling output, and it generates sort of a nice graphical representation of how the script was executed, which functions took how much time. And it's very good if you have some bottlenecks or you maybe want to find out how much time MySQL queries take in your script. So so much for this part on the configuring the server. I'm not going to go into depth because I've done that in text on my blog, and I'm going to put a link in the end. So don't get freaky. You will have all the detailed information, so you can duplicate this video just to kind of demonstrate how this works. So I'm going to go now into my Eclipse, and Eclipse has already been configured to have remote access over an SSH connection to the sources on the remote server. So basically, when I'm here, these are files from a CMS that Documentation Planet is implemented on, which is typo 3. These are source files from that CMS, and they are on the server in Frankfurt. So when I edit them here in Eclipse, it appears as if they are on my desktop machine, but they are not. I'm editing them remotely, and that is configured using SSHFS. It enables you to mount a remote SSH account to your local machine and browse the files as if they were on your machine. And it's very useful because I can now from Eclipse, using this setup, I can debug sites that are deployed live on a production server. I can edit the source directly, correct the bugs, and have a bug in a client side squished in a matter of seconds or minutes upmost, turn the XDebug off on the development on the production server, and I can basically kill bugs in a matter of few minutes, and it happens quite often. So let me show you how this works. I've already started the debug session, so I'm just going to load. This is the article on my documentation Planet blog that details everything about this setup, so you can go load this URL and you can read everything in detail, so you can set it up. For now, I'm just going to reload the page in order to trigger the debug session in Eclipse, and you can see Eclipse blinking. The session has been triggered, and it blocked on the first line in the index PHP file, which is the first PHP script that gets parsed when you load a Typo 3 front end. It's not very interesting. There's very little code. It basically just delegates the execution forward. But I have added another one breakpoint in a front-end login extension within Typo 3, which renders this login box in here. And if I, for example, now punch F8, it will continue executing, and it will break, perhaps, yeah, and it will break on this first line where I can now go through the source code of the front-end login extension. And usually what happens, I don't configure it correctly, and then I can go here through the source code, go step it line by line, and see where I've made a mistake. So that's the benefit. It offers you speed. You can see what's going on. You don't have to meditate on why something doesn't work. I see often guys on mailing lists for Typo 3, they ask questions that it takes less time to fire up the debugger and go into that extension and see in the code what's wrong than it takes to go to a news group and post a question. Literally, I'm not even joking. I can literally squish most of these configuration issues faster than somebody can post a question on a news group, and especially faster than they get a response. So it's very, very useful. I recommend it. I would like to show you just the debug configuration here. This is rather relevant. You have that all in that article, but I'm just going to quickly skim it. So you have to select obviously XDebug and not XDebugger. XDebugger is, I think, selected by default. You have to configure the PHP server. This is a misspelling. To point to the URL that loads the site, and you have to map the path on the server. This is actually a path on the remote server, and you map it to a local path on this machine. And with this thing, I had a really nasty trouble until I got it to work. And the problem was that it doesn't work if you have symlinks. And Typo 3 does have symlinks in its default installation. A couple of these folders are actually by default symbolic links, these three. And when they were symbolic links, Eclipse would fail to map the path correctly. So just delete the symlinks and copy the actual folders. I don't put break at first line or auto-generate because it usually generates some garbage in here. I just do it myself. So that's that about configuration. It's actually rather simple process to set this up, but there is quite a lot of places where you can make mistakes that are kind of small. Don't make you run into trouble. It doesn't work, like forwarding the port from the router to your machine, this thing with the symbolic links, configuring the remote host in XDebug and stuff. So you need to go through these things slowly and make sure everything is correct. But once you set this up, I don't think you're ever going to go back again to sitting in front of CMS or any other script and trying to meditate on why something is wrong. I see guys do that so many times. And if you just have this setup and the ability to just go through the source code and check a couple of variables, you can just solve so many problems and bugs rapidly. So once again, I want to point you to the blog post, or actually an article, however you want to call it. This is where everything is set up. Installing Eclipse, installing XDebug, installing SSHFS, mounting the remote SSH connection, creating the debug configurations, symbolic links issue. It's all here. So yeah, go here, read it, set it up, try it out, and I would like to hear some feedback from you guys. If I've made some errors or something, pointed out. I would love to upgrade this article and make it even better and have even more value. That's it for now, and I hope to hear from you soon. Bye.